Okay. Hello. So today I wanted to do at least one, hopefully maybe two episodes more for the Artisan Workshop tutorial series. So episode 5 is going to be campaign behaviors. Just something very basic to start with. I can introduce the concept of campaign behaviors. And then from there, we need to talk about DN spy decompilation reverse engineering, because at some point we are going to need to pull more complicated stuff from the Tailworld's codebase. So it's good to cover the reverse engineering part separately. And let me take a pop-up chat. Hi Fasan, chat is working. Good to know. Good morning to you, I think. So I'm excited to go further in the actual programming parts of the tutorial series. So far it has been mostly non-programming stuff, so it's in some ways it's easier because live programming is always kind of scary, but also it's not my strongest suit. I think I should just start without too much rambling. Just have to mentally prepare and stuff. Okay. Drinking some tea. Okay. Okay. Let's pause the music again. I think it's better to have the tutorials without music. If people want to actually listen, I don't know. I think maybe they do, so I think the music is mostly distracting. So. Okay. So, hello everyone, and welcome to part 5 of the Artisan Workshop tutorial series. And in this episode, we are going to create a campaign behavior. And so campaign behaviors are something that runs constantly in the background whenever you are in campaign. And in the base game, in the Tailworld's code, they are used extensively, and that is because they are very powerful, and you can do almost anything with campaign behaviors, and because they are very flexible and just very generic thing. So they are then the most or the default option that you should go for when you are trying to build the logic for your mod. And we will see, I will explain in more detail what they can be used for, and you will see why they are very useful. First, let's do a tiny bit of organizational work. So I want to move this mission view into its own file. So right now our code is just the submodule base, which calls the mission view, or we have the mission behavior here. But let's move this to a new file. So we can do move type. I can press Ctrl and dot to get the suggestion menu. We can just move this to new file. And I'm happy to use the file name that it suggests, and it will get the using statements for us. Now we have a cleaner submodule file again. And we can start writing our code here. So what we want is we want behavior. So let's just call it Artisan behavior. And this will be campaign behavior base. So campaign behavior base is the base class for all campaign behaviors. And the campaign here specifies just that behaviors are something that runs in the background of the actual campaigns, so sandboxes and story modes. So for example, custom battles would not have campaign behaviors because there is no world map, and these are just things that run in the background of the world map mostly. So although they can affect things that are not happening inside just the world map. So for example, from campaign behavior, you can spawn NPCs into missions. So for example, the town mission or the tavern mission, they will the handling of the NPCs is done from behaviors, but there is still the campaign context behind your visit to the city. So when you visit a city, you still visit the city inside a campaign. So campaign behaviors are still applicable there. But for example, in custom battle, there is no campaign in the background. So campaign behaviors make no sense. So now that we have selected our base class, we can just ask Visual Studio to implement the abstract class. And this will tell us what the basic functions of campaign behaviors are. So every campaign behavior registers some events, and we will look at this, and it will sync data. And sync data is where behaviors can save data, save and load data inside your save file, so your campaign save. So that is one of the key things that campaign behaviors give you, is ability to write stuff into the save file. And it's the most convenient way to, maybe even the only officially supported way of adding your save data into the campaign save. So we will look at this in a later lesson or later episode. So for now, we can just leave the sync data completely empty and instead focus on the register events thing. So this is the other basic function of campaign behaviors, is that they can register events, or they're typically used like to register events. So to register an event, we just look at campaign events, and then we get a huge list of all the events. So this is kind of maybe even too much just in the suggestion menu. So we can instead just left control click on the campaign events and go look at them inside the decompilation view of Visual Studio. So you can see there's like huge amount of campaign events. On mercenary troop changed in town, on settlement entered. So whenever a party, you can also here see all the arguments for these events. So these will be the things that you will see if you choose to listen to this event. So you have like, you get on settlement entered, you get the party and you get the settlement. And I guess this is the leading hero of the party. You can listen to when army is gathered, when army is dispersed. You can listen on kingdom. You can listen to kingdom decisions, or kingdom decision failed. So there's like huge amount of different events that you can listen for. And there's even some workshop related stuff here. So if I search for workshops, you can get on workshop changed event. So this is when the owning hero changes. So let's just assume eventually we want to listen to this event, right? So let's just, as an exercise, let's type this in. So on workshop changed event. And the way you register your listener is just you get the event, and then you you type this add non-serialized listener, and this expects two arguments, which are the object owner, which will always be this. So it's just the owning behavior, and then a listener, and we can just call the listener on workshop changed event. And then we can use Visual Studio again to generate this method like this, and it will give us the arguments, and we can rename this workshop. This was the old owning hero, and this is the type. And let's look at what other events we could listen for. So let's look at like settlement. Let's say I want to listen to, I want like settlement daily tick or something like that. Let's look at just all the settlement ones. On settlement. Okay, let's search for daily, every daily tick event. So there's daily tick settlement event. There's even tick town. So let's say I want, so towns are just cities and I think castles and villages maybe. And settlements also include things like hideouts. So let's say I want to listen to daily tick town event. And I can show you how you actually can affect the game state from something like this. So daily tick town event. And again, we do add serial listener, this, and daily tick town event. This name doesn't matter, by the way. So this is just my daily tick. I can call this whatever I want. And here we can, for example, iterate all the workshops in the town. So towns just have workshops for each. And then we can, let's just start with some debug messages, right? So let's just do information message again. So information message is the wait, what? I think I lost the import. I lost the import when I moved my code to the other file. So I have to re-add the using statement, new information message. We can do something like let's do like town name has a workshop. So now every day we will get a tick for every town, and we can iterate through the workshops and just print out something. In this case, the something is this town has a workshop named this thing. Okay, and then but one more thing before this can work is we have to actually register our behavior. So register the mission behavior. We listen to on mission behavior initialize. And to register a campaign behavior, we want to use this one, I think, on initialize game starter. So this will give us a game starter object, which is what we need for registering our campaign behaviors. We need this starter object. There's a few more which give starter objects, but I think they all look a bit worse. So these are game start and campaign start. These would only be called when you start a campaign, whereas the initialize game starter will also be called when you load a campaign. So almost always you want to initialize your behaviors even when the game is loaded from save game. So we want this thing, initialize game starter. So again, we override. We can add more stuff to our submodule, overriding these or adding more overrides. And we need to cast the starter object into campaign starting object. I think campaign game starter. So this is just the way to do cast in C#, kind of with nice syntax. So we can inside if condition, we can, this is casting it into campaign starter with the name starter. And if the cast is not successful, this if statement will fail. So inside this if block, this cast has success. Inside this if block, this cast has been successful, and we get the campaign game starter starter. So here we can just starter, add behavior, new artisan beer behavior. So now we actually add our behavior to the campaign starter. I have made a video that describes what the mod does. It adds some, it adds basically artisan workshops, or in this case, just artisan brewery, which creates this new type of item. It has like daily production of this new type of item, which functions as a HP potion in combat. And there's some auxiliary stuff, like we spawn an NPC into workshops and stuff like that. The NPC that sells this artisan beer. But you can check the video that I made a couple of days ago if you want to know, if you want to see all the features and stuff. So now we actually have our behavior, so we can just launch the game, and we should see that the daily settlement tick, daily town tick is actually hit. And we get a bunch of messages about which workshops are contained in each city. Now if we let the time pass, you can see that indeed we do get a lot of messages about all the various workshops in all the towns. And if we set breakpoint here inside the daily tick, we can go look at the workshop objects. Like this. In local variables, we can see the workshops. So this is Artisans, which is the hidden workshop in Diathma. If I press F5 to continue, we get the smithy in Diathma, and so forth. And so you can see, like, this has not run for 15 days. And you can use the debugger to see various things about these objects. Okay, so how do you actually change the state of the world? Well, in multitude of ways, but let's say here we want to change the workshops somehow. Let's say you want to make a mod that buffs the workshops a bit. You could just call change gold on the workshops. So this would just give the workshops a bit more money every day. So this would be a very easy way to buff the workshops a bit. So this would basically improve the profits from every workshop by 50 gold every day. And this could be a mod if you wanted to just do a workshop buffing mod. This would literally be it. Just a behavior that on daily tick iterates through the workshops, and that's some gold to the workshops. But to try it out that this actually works, let's first make this number be like absurdly high so that we can immediately see that it is working. Let's remove the breakpoint. So now let me buy a workshop and see that this will actually buff the workshops. But there's like literally unlimited way of how you could interact with the campaign states from a behavior. So let me cheat some money so that I can buy some workshops. Okay, so now if I wait, we should see that the workshops are very profitable. And we can confirm that this will actually work as a buff. So you can see that my first day workshop income is like 160,000. So this is a bit OP change, but you could do a lot subtler version of this, and that would literally be your workshop buff mod if you so choose, and it would take like 10 minutes to make. But for this mod, actually, I want to do the opposite of this. So I want to, because the Artisan Brewer is a new NPC that sort of works in the brewery. So let's just actually decrease the money. So let's first check that workshop type. So I happen to know that wait, what? Workshop type string ID. I was in the C# type. If the workshop type string ID is brewery, then we want to add some percentage of the expenses of the workshop, like basically increase the expenses. And in the lore of the mod, this would be the wage that we give to the artisan brewer. So if we look at workshop expense, this is their daily. This is their like daily the running cost. So let's just like multiply this by 0.515, so 15% more. And I think this has to be negative. And I think this has to be casted into an integer. Let's just round it, I guess. So there should be some sort of mathf, maybe. So we take negative number of the rounded expenses, 15% of the workshop expense, and we sort of remove that amount of gold from the breweries. Okay, so that would be my, and this is because we are going to add the artisan brewer there, and we have to pay him some wage. But you can do really crazy things with the campaign events, just listening to campaign events, and I mean, if you just look at all the options here, you should sort of get an idea of like how many different things you can actually affect just from here. You can even listen to like when tournaments start and when tournaments finish. You can add some behavior when every time tournament finishes or something. Or you have even track lost event, which is like, I guess, when you lose sight of a track, when a track gets old or something. When villages are raided, and you can do so many things. So in the future, this will be, so the campaign behaviors are sort of the brain of your operation. And the way I suggest that you would structure your mods usually is that you have like one campaign behavior that is sort of the brain, sort of the main logic thing in your mod. So that, and you can also save data there. So you will have it, or all your save data there. And it's just a suggestion of how you can organize things. But that is pretty much everything. I will move this to its own file as well. And I guess we are done for this episode. Unrelated question. Yes, the prisoner donation thing is patched, at least in most versions. I think it actually works in 1.7.2 at the moment, but it will be patched as well. Or at least partly works in 1.7.2 at the moment. Any questions on mission behaviors at the moment? We will visit this topic again many times, but okay. So, and in the next episode, we are going to look more at the reverse engineering of the overworld's codebase with the DN Spy tool. And after we have the knowledge we gain from reverse engineering, we can start adding like more complicated stuff. So we can start adding more complicated stuff since we can copy paste stuff from their code. And I think that is pretty much it. So thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next episode. And I think we can go straight into the next one. And over time, this behavior is going to get more complicated, I guess, but or like have more features and stuff. So this, I will follow my suggestion here, and this one behavior will be the sort of brains of the operation here. But I will continue to the next episode right now. So the next thing will be DN Spy and reverse engineering. Okay, so hello everyone, and welcome to the episode 6 of the Artisan Workshop tutorial series. And in this episode, we are going to look at DN Spy and reverse engineering. So DN Spy is a tool that you can get from GitHub, and there's instructions in the first video of the series. So the first time you boot this up, it will look like this, and there's nothing over here. And the way you actually get this to work with Bannerlord is that you have to open all the DLLs. So I'm here in the theme Bannerlord binary. We go to the shipping client, and you just add all the DLLs. And the way I add DLL, you have to add DLLs, or you have to load DLLs to make them show up in DN Spy. The way I do this is I go in the root binary. I come here and include everything that starts with tailworlds. So I select the first tailworlds one, go down, holding shift, and select everything and open. But this might be enough, but usually for me, I like to include a lot more, or the more the better for the most part. So I go to modules and include also the native DLLs from the modules native bin. Include all of this. And I also go to the sandbox and include all the binaries from here. And the reason I do this is to have like a better search function. So DN Spy has really like amazing search functionality, but to actually get the results, you have to load enough DLLs. And if you don't know where stuff is located, which most likely, if you're just searching for random stuff, you have no idea where they are, then it's worth adding more DLLs to your assembly explorer or to your assembly view, so that you have higher likelihood of actually finding the stuff that you're looking for. So the way you search for things are, you can press here on this magnifying icon, or just press Ctrl-Shift-K, bring up the search. Then over here on the right, you choose the type, or you choose like what you are searching for. So you can search for number or string, or any type of like C# object, or any type of C# object. So the default, I think, is all of the above. This usually it gives like too much results. So if you, for example, search for workshop, this will give you like so many results that it's like very hard to find what you're looking for. So usually type is quite useful. So just search for the type, and then to limit your search even more, so this gives like maybe manageable amount of results for workshop, but still, if you're looking for exactly workshop, you can click options and match whole words to find like exactly the thing you're looking for. So for example, if you want to find mission, this match whole words is very useful, because just searching for mission will give you way too many results. But to find the exactly mission, you can do this. Okay, so this will give you convenient view of all the Tailworld's managed code. This will not show you the engine code, so what they use to do the 3D rendering for the missions, but this will show you almost like basically all the game code that they have, and you can really figure stuff out if you just spend time reading this decompilation view. So I had some ideas of what I want to look for here. Well, for example, for my speed runs, I've looked at so many things. So I looked at how the inheritance works when the last noble of the kingdom is killed. I've looked at the values for the towns, like what determines the town value in bartering. I've looked at like birth rates. I've looked at how persuasion works. You can figure out so many things if you just spend enough time reading. And also like that will get you more familiar with the code base in general. And that's always valuable. Like even as a modder, like just being more familiar with the existing code base, it's invaluable really. So I recommend you just, if you have some topic of interest, you just try to find it and then try to figure out how it works. You can also set, so you can actually use dnspy as a debugger. So let's try that right now. Let's go to like, let's try to figure out how the taverns work, for example. So let's look at like, let's search for innkeeper. That gives us nothing. Let's search for tavern. So this is the kind of the process. You just type random words and see what happens. Tavern gives us something. This looks very interesting. Tavern employees campaign behavior. Let me make this a bit larger for you. So tavern employees campaign behavior. And this follows the model that this like the way the Tailworld's behaviors kind of work is that they have like sort of one behavior for each like zone of responsibility, or like for each feature. For example, here, like one behavior for taverns, kind of. And they listen to a bunch of stuff. So here, let's search for keeper, then tavern keeper. So we can set breakpoint for create tavern keeper if we are for some reason interested in tavern keepers. And then if we look at more, we can find the dialogues for tavern keeper. And we can also set breakpoints in here. So let's set one breakpoint here, for example. And this should break when we first talk to a tavern keeper. And how do you use this as debugger? Well, you press start, then you have to choose as executable the Bannerlord X. And then you need some sort of arguments. And if you don't give any arguments, then it will just launch it with the base modules. You can also come to your launch settings, copy this line that we have in Visual Studio for starting our project from Visual Studio. You can copy this here. The only thing you need to change is this module name. You need to change this to your module name. So you can even launch the game with your module like this. And it will also set this working directory correctly. So that's good. So now we can actually go in and debug Tailworld code, which is very powerful. And it can help you tremendously when you try to figure out how the game actually works. And you could even use this to debug your own code. Sometimes it's even better if your bug is somehow related to both Tailworld's code and your own code. It can be worth it to like debug in DNSpy instead of Visual Studio. So now if we go to a tavern, we will first hit this breakpoint of creating the tavern keeper. So here we could, so here we have another sort of debug view, which is very similar to the one you get in Visual Studio. So here you can see what the arguments are. You can look at them. This is the culture, so the Batanian culture object. Not super interesting right here, but depending on where you are, this will of course be more or less interesting to you. But so this might be something that we want to look at if we want to spawn our own NPCs in taverns or something. Okay, we can hit F5 to continue. And then we can go talk to the tavern keeper and we hit our second breakpoint. And we can also use the watch view. So I have some stuff here already, but I can remove them. So if you've used Visual Studio Debugger, you should be very comfortable with this. So watch view is just something where you can type your own expressions and they will be evaluated in the current context. So here the context is this dialogues. So I can use any statics that are, for example, hero, main hero is one static, which will give me my main character, hero object. And so here, for example, if we are interested in what the character object one-to-one conversation character is, we can look at this. So the one-to-one conversation character is the tavern keeper, unsurprisingly. And you could also just call in basically any methods or anything you know how to type. You can type here in the watch window. So for example, if we want to check if our one-to-one conversation character is our main hero, we can type expressions here. Oh, well, types do not match. So character object. Okay, well, here you see if you don't know how to type things, then you cannot actually do this. So there's no character object there. That's interesting. Let's see. So, well, now we can go on an adventure and see why does hero not have a character object. We can go to the hero type. Yes, hero object. It has character object. Did I mistype it? Hero does not contain definition for character object. Oh, I mistyped it. Character object. Okay, so now you can see that the tavern keeper is not the main hero. unsurprisingly. But you can write any sort of expressions here. But you see that without auto completion is sometimes a bit more difficult than it should be. But yeah, basically just looking around here for enough time, you will learn how the code base roughly works. So let's look at where we are. We are in, and you have even more stuff here. For example, the call stack, very useful. List of your breakpoints, all sorts of stuff. So one more thing that is very powerful about DNSpy is the ability to go up and down all sorts of code chains. So if you can basically just right click anything and click analyze, or hover it and press Ctrl Shift R, but I think the right click method is sometimes more useful. And then you get this analyzer view where you can go both ways along like this call path. So you can see that add dialogues is used from on session launch. On session launched is used from registry events, and you can see where this is used from. It's used from campaign behavior manager, and so on and so forth. This is extremely useful whenever you're trying to figure out like how different things are called from different places. Also, like if you, for example, look at the hero object again, I closed it just now, but we can go back to hero. If you, for example, want to find out like how do heroes get money, you can come here to hero gold. You can analyze gold. The setter will be the part that changes the money amount, right? So you can basically find out all the places where heroes gain or lose money. So this gives you expenses from auto recruitment, party expenses, give share of loot to party, and so immediately you find like where is battle loot calculated, and very useful stuff. This is most of the time when I have no idea where something is located, you just think of like, okay, what property does this thing set? And then you can, maybe the property will be easier to find, and then you just analyze the setter of the property. This is very powerful. I do this all the time. So here, like, okay, so apparently most of the things that are related to players' code amount are in default clan finance model. So let's just, if I'm interested in the clan finances or the finances of the hero, then I just go and read default clan finance model, because that seems where the hero code is most of the time manipulated from. Very powerful. So anything else? Well, one thing that I wanted to look at is the location character stuff. Hello. So in the next episode, we want to add a new NPC to the workshops. So let's try to find out where the workshop NPCs are added to the scene. So if we search again for workshop, can we find some place where they would add NPCs? And if we look at workshop campaign behavior, and look at the events this listens to, can we find something that looks good? Okay, maybe not. What about workshop characters campaign behavior? Okay, this looks better, right? So here we are listening to, I mean, already the name seems better. Workshop characters behavior, and this listens to location characters are ready to spawn event. And then if we go look at this, you can see that they have this method, add workshop and shop workers to town center. And this will actually be exactly the thing that we need to spawn our own NPC inside workshops, or like more like this. So, and then you want to know more like how this works, what is location character, and then what is location with ID, and why do they add location characters to the location with ID. You can go on and like go both ways here. Press add character, go look at what this is. You can go into location character, look at what location character is, and you see how you can basically just reverse engineering. You can use this to reverse engineer how the Tailworld's code works. It's very well, I don't want to say it's easy, but well, it's definitely very powerful. So you can do most of your coding just copying stuff from Tailworld's code. Like most of the stuff that you want to achieve are done already somewhere. So at least if you're trying to do something reasonable. And of course, the other option is looking at existing mods and try to find like which mods, or try to find mod code from the GitHub. But I kind of prefer just reading the base game code, because at least I think that they use stuff in the intended way most of the time. So like if the designers of the systems have some intention, then more likely their world's own code follows those intentions. But I think this covers most of the things that I want to talk about when looking at debugging with dnSpy and reverse engineering with dnSpy. So this should give you enough knowledge to just start reading Tailworld's code and start reverse engineering and figuring out how everything works on your own. So I want to thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next episode. So, and I think if there are no questions about all of this, then I might be done for now, and I will edit these two episodes into new videos, and then we can continue from here on to the next part, which will be spawning the beer sales guy using this. Yeah. So here, for example, they just iterate over the workshops, and they get this workshop tag here. So only thing that determines where this NPC will be spawned is this workshop tag, I think, and stuff like that. You just have to read this stuff enough until you... Oh, they have this shop worker, so this is character object. And this is like every culture has its own character objects for all sorts of things. There is culture specific tavern keeper and culture tavern game host, and so on and so forth. We will look at this in more detail as well. But okay, thank you for watching, and hope to see you in the future.